I noticed that Grayson's last name is Tulk. How is that name in relation to you?
That's my stepfather's last name.
Has Mr. Garcia indicated to you that he uses illegal drugs?
The state may proceed. Court will note for the record at this time that the child in this matter is going to be 2 years old this December. The state may proceed.
Your Honor, state would like to call Marcy Moore. Ma'am, will you state your name?
Marcy Moore.
And you've previously been sworn in as an expert for child support, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you do a wage investigation in this case?
Yes, I did.
What were your findings?
There was no current employer located, but Mr. Garcia does receive VA benefits in the amount of $2,283.01.
And did you calculate guideline child support in this case?
Yes, ma'am. It would be guideline support would be $588, and also medical support was calculated at $80.
And is that how many children in and out is that using?
That's going to be one child before the court and one additional child.
And did you also use the minimum wage presumption for Mr. Garcia as well as his benefits?
Yes, ma'am. The minimum wage of $12.56.57.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Moore, that VA benefits?
Yes, sir.
Sounds like he's above 60%, and I always have a little bit hesitant to use minimum wage when they're above 60, 70%. Do you know what that percentage of disability is?
No, I do not, Judge.
Sounds like it's closer to 90%. He's not at the, so it might be 80. All right, anyway, I'll see if the mom knows what his disability rating is before I include minimum wage based on the fact that he's getting somewhere above 60% VA disability. Anyway, Ms. Biggs, do you have any question of the CSO?
No, sir.
All right, may the CSO be excused, Ms. Hubbard.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're free to go, Ms. Moore. Thank you very much. State can call the next witness.
Your Honor, the state would call Davina Biggs. Ma'am, will you state your name for the record?
Davina Biggs.
And state the name and birthday of the child that you have with Mr. Garcia.
Grayson Tulp, 12/03/22.
And your child participated in DNA testing, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you able to see those results? Your Honor, do you have the DNA testing results in the file?
Yes, the copy of the had been sent over, and it shows that I'm going to mark these as State's Exhibit number 1. Is there any reason that the DNA test should not come into evidence at this time, Ms. Biggs?
No.
All right, it shows that the DNA test shows that, I think that was the name. Okay, I got the names transposed here. It shows that the alleged father, Mr. Brian Garcia, cannot be excluded as the biological father of the child, Grayson Tulk. Probability of paternity is 99.999999998 with a combined paternity index of 5.099 billion to 1. The court will also find that Mr. Brian Garcia is the biological father of Grayson Tulk, and the state may proceed.
Thank you. So I noticed that Grayson's last name is Tulk. How is that name in relation to you?
Well, that's my stepfather's last name. And in my previous marriage, I kept the married name Biggs. And so I was going to change my name to Tulk. And when Grayson was born, I just automatically gave him that name.
Okay. Are you still planning on changing your last name to Tulk?
Yes, ma'am.
And in this case, I know Judge had explained in his speech about the last name. Do you have a preference on the hyphenation, if it's Tulk Garcia or Garcia Tulk?
Tulk Garcia.
Okay.
And then real quick, you said were you Tulk before you got married, or you have a different last name?
I had a different last name.
All right, and you didn't take care of that while you in your divorce, or are you still going through the divorce, or what?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I have 2 other children with my previous marriage, and I kept the last name to keep the same common name of my children. But now I feel like this child, I don't know. I never thought before about changing my last name just due to my first 2 children.
So you got 2 children with the last name of Biggs?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Tuck, see, the thing is, I know it's easier to change your name when you're getting this as part of decree of divorce. It's really, really legally expensive to change your last name now. I mean, You know, they want to make sure that you're not going to become the new head of Al-Qaeda or something. Yeah, I'm just kidding about that.
Right.
They want to make sure you're not up to something nefarious. And so you got to jump through a lot of hoops when you just go in to change your name in a petition for name change by itself. So, you know, realistically, it's going to be very difficult. But I'll go ahead and look at it, ma'am. If you're going to tell the court this is something you're definitely going to do, because obviously you still got those other two children named Biggs, and there might be a problem with that. So, well, are you sure you're going to do it, ma'am?
I didn't know that was that difficult.
It's not totally done, but yeah, it is. You've got to
And
jump through all
costly.
kind of legal hoops to get it done. It's
Uh-huh.
really easy to do with a divorce, but once you do it by itself, they want to know why you want to change your name now.
Well, then I'll probably just leave it, to be honest with you.
In fact, the easiest way to probably do it is for adoption of an adult instead of trying.
Actually, that's what my dad was mentioning, to adopt me, but I didn't know if it was
Yeah, that's easy. Once you're over the age of 18, you don't have to have all those lawyers appointed to represent the kids, well, the children under age 18.
Okay.
I've done it back in the day, but yeah, it's a lot easier to get an adoption of an adult. But that's left up to y'all. But again, ma'am, off the top of my head, I just know it's very difficult and it's very expensive just for a name change. Okay. But anyway, we might let's see if we're gonna make this a final, and we'll see what we'll try to do. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You may proceed, Ms. Hubbard.
Does Mr. Garcia currently have a relationship with Grayson, ma'am?
No.
Has he ever met Grayson? Okay. Has Mr. Garcia, not anyone else, or him comments made, has he expressed to you any indication that he's willing to be a father, that he's not willing to be a father?
Yes, that he's willing to be a father. He just doesn't make time, I guess.
Does he have the ability to contact you currently?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him since right around April, maybe May. The last conversation we had was about potentially meeting at the park so he could see Grayson, and then I never heard back from him.
So if he was unable to contact you, it wouldn't have been because you changed your number or
No,
because
ma'am.
you were trying to keep Grayson from being able to see him?
No, not at all. I've had the same information for a long time.
But you are concerned regarding Mr. Garcia and his wife and perhaps some potential drug use. Is that correct?
Also, just like, I don't know how this works as far as legal wise, but she did lose her own child.
Here's the deal, ma'am. You can testify to anything you personally saw. You can testify to anything the father said, but you cannot testify to anything else anyone else has told you, even his current wife. That's still considered hearsay. But if he told you something or you actually witnessed something, then you can tell the court about it. Thank you.
So has he indicated to you that children have been taken out of the home there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did that happen?
July of 2023 or 2022.
Okay. And to your knowledge, those children are not back in the home.
Correct.
Has Mr. Garcia indicated to you that he uses illegal drugs?
I don't recall. I don't think he's ever said. I've seen him smoke spice, but I've never seen him use anything other than.
All right. Ms. Hubbard, I'm looking at this being an attempt, that CPS thing. I'm not sure if I can name this gentleman the joint management conservator or not, based on if they got any type of findings in that. It sounds like it's more than a year old, so that sounds like that's got to be a court case. But again, these days I never know anymore. Back in the good old days, if CPS was in a case more than a year, they better have a court action. But for right now, I'm probably having to appoint an ad litem to investigate that to see what we're looking at and see whether or not I've got to appoint the father a possessive conservator and give him limited rights based on that possessive conservatorship. So it is what it is. Ma'am, I just through a lot of legal mumbo jumbo out there, aren't you? But the bottom line is, under the law, I'm supposed to name him as a joint managed conservator, but because there's been children removed from their residence, and the allegations may be toward him, and unless there's an official investigation by an ad litem who can get me copies of whatever's on file, or get me copies wherever CPS has in their record, yeah, I'm gonna have to give him a lawyer. I'm gonna have to give the baby a lawyer and have them do the investigation to get that information. Where is the father and his current wife living, man? Which county, which state, do you know?
Coryell County.
Oh, then I got jurisdiction to order people to do things. All right, good.
Your Honor, I think testimony may exclude him for different reasons from being a joint managing conservator. If
Then
the
I'm
court
still
would allow me to,
probably let me see what those reasons are. Okay, thank you.
Biggs, are you aware of any criminal convictions that Mr. Garcia has?
Yes.
What are those convictions?
I believe they're possession charges.
All
Okay,
right, ma'am.
were
Did it
they,
happen before the child was born or after the child was born?
Before I was pregnant with him.
You may proceed, Ms. Hubbard.
are you aware of any delivery of a controlled substance charge?
No,
Okay,
I'm not sure what any of those mean.
it's just different criminal charges.
That's why we get to charge hundreds of dollars an hour and keep people confused. There you go. So, how do you know
But-
about, did he tell you about the prior conviction?
Yes, sir.
All right, good enough. And which county was that in? Do you know?
Coryell County.
So we got it. We can find this out very, very easily then. Thank you.
And so I guess bottom line is you're concerned about your child's safety if he were to go over to Mr. Garcia's house for a visit.
Yes, ma'am. And I feel like initially, especially just until they get to know each other.
And as far as medical coverage, how is Grayson covered currently?
Through the state.
And to your knowledge, Mr. Garcia does only have one other child outside of Grayson.
Yes.
And as far as retroactive, well, if this is a temporary order, we'll get into the issue of retroactive support in a final order, but you are requesting it, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, currently, Mr. Garcia has your contact information. Are you concerned at all if he continues to know where you live and how to contact you?
No.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure the court knows that we haven't gone over?
I do want to mention, I guess, last summer there was CPS called due to him being in my home. It was a misunderstanding on my ex-husband's part, but however, Mr. Garcia did not cooperate with CPS. He did not communicate with them, and it did close. They did close his case as a non-conclusive.
Well, now you piqued my interest. You said it was a mistake, but what are we dealing with? What happened and why was it?
Okay.
What happened?
Of course. He was just released from jail and he moved into my apartment with me. But because my ex-husband, I guess, had heard of his previous charges, he wanted to make sure that his children were safe. So he called CPS to do an investigation. And that's when Mr. Garcia left.
All right, but there was no incident, the calling of CPS. It was just a preventive this type of circumstance, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, then. No, that's not. All right. You know what he was in jail for when that happened?
Possession charges.
And ma'am, do you know what his disability rating is at this time from VA?
Last time we discussed his disability, it was at 60%, but he was working on having it increased.
All right, so it sounds like you may be a little bit above 60% right now. So for right now, I'll look at going ahead and doing something toward that and throwing in something and allowing the minimum wage presumption to be in there because I'm looking at having to come back in a couple of months and we'll see whether or not that is accurate.
Okay.
But my thing is once they get above 60, technically. I would do if I would do the minimum wage presumption, I would do it based on the percentage that they're not disabled. Okay, so but
Correct.
again, we'll
Understood.
find out. We'll try to figure that one out. All right, Ms. Hubbard. Any other questions?
Your Honor.
All right, tell Mr. Brimall he's got a new one. Okay, and I'll try not to call him Barnhill like I did the other day and call Mr. Barnhill Mr. Brimall. Yeah, Mr. Brimall's pointed out that on docket sheets he's actually been listed as Barnhill. So yeah, I'm not the only one. So there. But anyway, man, I'm gonna go ahead and give the child a lawyer. I want the lawyer to complete an investigation, get me some evidence that's not considered hearsay. That means evidence that he can present that shows the truth of the matter. In other words, documentation. And lawyers know how to get that entered into evidence and get it done. So at this time, ma'am, I'm looking at naming you and he joint managing conservators. But right now, I'm not looking at giving him any rights until I find out what his criminal convictions are and what the circumstances are and the allegations dealing with the removal of, and are those children with his current wife, his or stepkids?
Stepchildren.
All right, and let's find out what those allegations are before I give him any rights under conservatorship, because again, that just scares the daylights out of judges when we don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, appoint Mr. Isaac Bramhall as the attorney ad litem for your child. I'll need your permission to have the state give him your contact information. In other words, your phone number and your email, and have him do an investigation to see what and hopefully to even find out what dad's percentage of disability is, and figure out what kind of rights I can give him under joint marriage conservatorship, or if I had to reduce him to a possessory conservator, which is again another legal term that we use in the family code, and give him rights under that, and then limit those rights based on what other the ad litem has been able to find as far as criminal convictions, which will have terms and conditions of any probation he's on, plus anything dealing with CPS and restrictions that they have given. Because again, for CPS to still be on your case after more than a year, yeah, that sounds like it is something really serious, and the court needs that data. So, ma'am, I'll ask you, do you have any questions at this time? I'm gonna go ahead and, like I say, name you joint MC, but give you all the rights to decide domicile. I'm gonna go ahead and order that any and all visitation into further order are at your discretion, or however you want to handle it. If you want to meet him in the park, you want to have him come over, whatever, you can do whatever you want, so long as you feel safe. But until we come back in October, I'm gonna set this out to October. It's left up to you about visitation, and I'm gonna go ahead and order temporary child support. And I'm going to go ahead and use the amount as testified to by the CSO. But at the final hearing, depending on what that percentage is, ma'am, I'm probably going to tweak it. But since the gentleman seems to have a penchant for using his money to buy drugs, I'd rather go to you than to a drug dealer. Okay, so at this time, ma'am, questions or anything else you think I need to know that you haven't testified to already, ma'am?
He is currently on probation.
Well, I knew that, ma'am. If he's out in the free world, he's got to be on some
Yeah.
type of probation, ma'am. So
He completed his parole, and that's when he got in trouble again. So there's that. I didn't know if that would be
yeah, well, so right now the parole is completed, but he's still on probation for the the most recent criminal charges. And I'll have the ad litem, and I'll have the state put in there that Mr. Brimhall needs to get a copy of his terms and condition of probation that's over in that file in Corio County. Believe it or not, a long time ago, the judge practiced criminal law in Corio County, and all that's in the file now. No problem.
all right. Well, no other questions. Thank you.
All right then, Miss Hubbard, look for a date in October and run that by Miss Biggs. I know y'all got to go back to the breakout room to try to get this temporary order set up and signed off on. So I'll sign off on it once presented. Is there anything else, Ms. Hubbard, you think as far as this order is concerned before I go ahead and end this hearing?
Your Honor.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, ma'am. We're off the record.
Are you aware of my visitation rights with my children, any at all? I have not seen my kids in over 10 years because she don't let me speak to them, see them, or anything.
You indicated that you were denied some parenting time. Is that correct?
Yes, I haven't seen my son in months. With the time you gave me, I call. She doesn't get on the phone like that. It's a reoccurring thing.
Are you currently exercising any parenting time?
She is not allowing me to have her.